The Dyatlov Pass incident is not just a ghost story. It is a meticulously documented forensic puzzle that has defied explanation for nearly 70 years. In the winter of 1959, 9 experienced hikers disappeared into the dead mountain, leaving behind a scene that continues to haunt investigators. To understand why this case is so chilling, we have to look past the legends and examine the hard evidence and the people who lived it. The group was led by 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, a brilliant student and a meticulous leader who had planned this expedition to the letter. Joining him were 7 other young men and 2 young women, all elite hikers from the Ural Polytechnic Institute. They were some of the best the Soviet Union had to offer. One member, Yuri Yudin, was forced to turn back early due to joint pain. He would become the sole survivor, haunted for the rest of his life by the friends he left behind. The journey began on January 23rd. The goal was to reach Mount Otorten, a peak known to the local Mansi people as "Don't Go There." They traveled by train and truck to the edge of the wilderness, documenting their journey in diaries that show a group in high spirits. Their notes speak of the beauty of the taiga, the biting cold, and the camaraderie of the trail. There was no sign of the horror to come. By late January, they were deep in the mountains. The weather was turning brutal, with temperatures dropping well below -20. On February 1st, they began to ascend 𝓝𝓸𝓲𝓻, but worsening visibility forced them to make a fateful decision. Instead of retreating to the forest, Dyatlov decided to pitch their tent right on the exposed slope. He likely wanted to avoid losing height. This is the last photo they ever took. It shows the group working in the twilight, unaware that this would be their final resting place. The group was supposed to send a telegram by February 12th. When the date passed in silence, their families began to worry. A massive search operation was launched, involving students, the military, and local hunters. They scoured the mountains for weeks. On February 26th, they finally spotted it. The tent, half buried and shredded, sitting alone on the slope of 𝓝𝓸𝓲𝓻. The investigators were baffled. The tent hadn't been crushed, it had been cut open from the inside with a knife. Inside, their warm clothes, boots, and food were still there. The hikers had fled into a blizzard, virtually naked. Why? Trailing down the slope were 8 or 9 sets of footprints. People wearing only socks or completely bare feet, walking toward the forest. A mile away, at the edge of the forest, the first 2 bodies were found. They were under a massive cedar tree, dressed only in their underwear. The branches of the cedar were broken up to 15 feet high. It appeared they were desperately trying to see something or climb away from it. 3 more bodies, including Igor Dyatlov, were found scattered between the tree and the tent, as if they were trying to crawl back to safety. It wasn't until the spring thaw in May that the final 4 hikers were discovered, buried deep in a nearby ravine. These 4 victims were the true horror story. Their injuries were unlike anything seen in a simple mountain accident. One had a fractured skull. 2 others had massive chest fractures. The force required was equal to a high-speed car crash. But here's the anomaly. There was absolutely no external bruising. Their bones were crushed by pure internal pressure. Lyudmila Dubanina was found missing her tongue, her eyes, and parts of her facial tissue. The official cause was listed as post-mortem decay, but many disagreed. And then there was the radiation. Tests on their clothing showed high levels of radioactive contamination in the middle of the wilderness. So, what could possibly explain this? For decades, theories have ranged from the scientific to the supernatural. The most popular official theory is a slab avalanche. A sudden impact could have crushed their ribs while they slept, but rescuers found the tent poles still standing and the footprints intact. Avalanches don't usually leave fragile tracks undisturbed for miles. A more modern theory points to infrasound. Wind rushing over the peak could have created low-frequency waves that trigger intense, primal panic. Infrasound can cause nausea, dizziness, and a sudden violent urge to flee. It would explain why they cut their way out in a frenzy. Then there is the military conspiracy. The Ural Range was a known site for secret weapons testing during the Cold War. Other hiking groups reported seeing strange, glowing orange orbs in the sky around that time. Were the hikers accidentally caught in a blast zone? This would explain the radiation on the clothes and the sudden panicked flight. But the Soviet government has never admitted to any tests in the area. Some researchers suggest katabatic winds, sudden hurricane-force gusts that could have ripped the tent and made survival impossible. Initial investigators even looked at the Mansi people, wondering if they had defended their sacred land. But there were no signs of other people at the site. As hypothermia sets in, victims often feel a burning sensation, leading to paradoxical undressing. This explains why they were found in their underwear. But paradoxical undressing doesn't explain the car crash-level internal trauma. That remains the most haunting piece of the puzzle. In May 1959, the Soviet government officially closed the case, citing a compelling natural force. The files were buried in a secret archive. Yuri Yudin spent his life searching for answers, famously saying, "If I had a chance to ask God just one question, it would be, what really happened to my friends?" In 2020, the Russian government reopened the case. Their conclusion? A combination of an avalanche and poor visibility. Case closed. Again. Yet for many, the official answers feel hollow. They don't account for the radiation, the missing eyes, or the sheer terror of that night. We remember them not just for how they died, but for who they were. 9 young, vibrant lives cut short in their prime. The Dyatlov Pass remains a testament to the power of the unknown. It reminds us that even with all our science, some secrets are kept by the mountains. The snow continues to fall over Kholat Syakhl, burying the truth deeper with every passing winter. The truth is out there, somewhere in the ice. Perhaps it's better that some mysteries remain unsolved.